Good morning. It's John Wren. This is the Startup Show. We're here each Friday morning, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And we talk about startup. If you're starting in a new direction with your work, starting a new career, a new project or campaign, or a new business, you are in the right place. We're here each Friday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, and seen around the world on johnwren.com, www.johnwren.com, links to the show each Friday morning. You can watch it live at 10 a.m. each Friday, Mountain Time, or watch the recording if you can't join us at that time. To be on the show, call me any Monday, 303-861-1447. Call me if you've got a startup story you'd like to share, how you got a new job, starting a new career, a new project, a new campaign, or a new business. We'd love to have you tell your story to help other people. There's a lot of bad information out about startup, and we try to overcome that with some good information with our Small Business Chamber of Commerce startup method. And I'll tell you about that in just a minute. The Small Business Chamber is really me, and it's a virtual group. It's online, very active, about 8,000 members online. To be a member, all you have to do is go to one of our sites. Our website is smallbizchamber.org. Our Facebook page, it's Small Business Chamber, or Twitter. Our handle on Twitter is @IdeaCafe. And to be a member, all you have to do is say you're a member on your Facebook page or favorite social media and link to one of our sites. Come to 3 of our free meetings, join or start a self-directed learning group, Franklin Circle. Junto is what Franklin called the very first one. And then come to our January 17th Ben Franklin birthday. It's an annual event, and we'll announce you as a new member, and that's all the initiation there is. There's no secret handshakes. There's no clubhouse. We're a virtual organization, except for that one time a year that we have the worldwide conference bringing all members together. So that can still be you by next January 17th. For more information, check out our website, smallbizchamber.org, or give me a call Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever you want to call. If I can't pick up, leave a complete message on the recorder and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. That number is 303-861-1447. Or Twitter @IdeaCafe. Well, the Small Business Chamber of Commerce startup method is composed of 4 practices. And this is a takeoff from Babson College's textbook, Teaching Entrepreneurship. 3, I'm sure, very fine ladies wrote the book, and it's the sort of feminine approach to startup. They have various practices. One of them is playfulness. Okay, well, fair enough. But the Small Business Chamber of Commerce startup method is comprised of 4 practices that have come out of my personal experience. I started hanging out with entrepreneurs when I was 2 years old. I was with my dad when he and mom moved to Colorado to start his business in 1949. And I was there from that very first day on the job, going to the warehouse with him. My earliest memory is him calling me to go to the warehouse with him. And right through working with him and managing to sell it just at the right time as a cash sale. So I saw it from start to finish. And my dad had a lot of friends that were entrepreneurs. So and every night at the dinner table was like a business seminar. What happened, who was hired, who was fired, problems, celebrations. Every night at 6 o'clock, Mom would have dinner on the table, and Dad would talk about what had happened that day. How many families have that great advantage? I am very grateful. And Mom passed away September 20th, a year ago. And Dad, back in 1979, he died far, far too young. He sold his business, said he was retired, and died. That is a very common practice. So one of the principles that we talk about, it's not one of our practices, but one of the principles is only a fool would retire. Dying soon after retirement is so. You may leave one job and start collecting retirement benefits, but don't think of yourself as retired. That's just a new chapter in life, and maybe that you're going to do volunteer work. Many organizations need full-time volunteers to make themselves viable. We could use a few volunteers here at the Small Business Chamber of Commerce. So if you're interested in maybe taking your retirement in a new direction, give me a call on Monday. Monday's usually the best time to reach me. 10 o'clock Mountain Time, 10 a.m. I'm up much earlier, but I have a lot of stuff to do. But anytime after 10 a.m. Mountain Time, you can usually get me to pick up the phone at 303-861-1447. It's 303-861-1447. Well, our Small Business Chamber of Commerce startup method is comprised of these 4 practices. First is imagination. Einstein said that imagination is more important than knowledge. He had to imagine things before he could know them. And imagination is what goes on inside our head, separate from sensory input of the normal type. I believe that it's an inspiration, the logos idea of a thought becoming real through our hands. We're God's hands and feet, I believe. It's God's agent carrying out the work in the world that is moving us all in a better direction. I believe that is what entrepreneurship is about. And it starts with imagination. People without a perish fail. And it takes someone with this imagination to then express that vision, whether it's the whole nation, your household, or just the business that you're starting. Sometimes no one can see what you see. And this idea that the Small Business Chamber of Commerce, Small Business Administration has of going around and telling everybody your idea, and if they don't all agree with it, you're probably on the wrong, that's just crazy. And but imagination, critical thinking, you have to think hard about it. And so you have this inspiration. Now, are you inspired by a spirit of consolation or a spirit of desolation? As my Jesuit friends say, you have to be able to discern that through critical thinking. And a good way to practice imagination, green light thinking, chunking up more and more, is the Idea Cafe Startup Workshop. We do a model meeting every Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. Mountain Time at Panera Bread Cafe, 13th and Grant Street, just a block from the Colorado State Capitol. And join us there this afternoon. And we do 2 things. We share startup experience. Everyone has started something. You started, if nothing else, you started the day this morning. You've started school. You've started a romance. Everyone has started something. So we share startup experience, and we do a brainstorming type technique to address whatever particular concern you have. Now, this is not a networking group. It's a learning group. We ask that you come with something on your mind that you'd like to have brainstormed. That's the only ticket to admission. It's free, open to everybody who is starting in a new direction with their work, starting a new career, or wants to start a new career. Maybe you don't know what it is yet, but if you want to go in a new direction in your work, starting a new career, a new project. Maybe you've got a business, but you're taking on something new, a new product, an expansion geographically. Can be any number of projects. But if you're starting a new project, a new campaign, maybe you've decided to run for political office or help other good people get elected. Between now and next March, we are combining forces with another virtual group of mine. It's the Citizens Campaign for the Colorado Caucus. And we will talk about the caucus briefly at each meeting. And we're especially interested in you coming if you're interested in either running for elected public office yourself or helping other good people get elected. And if it's a campaign like that, or it could be an issue campaign, something really that's particularly important to you and you want to see a change made, bring that if you're starting a new campaign along those lines. So we've got imagination, critical thinking. This critical thinking, some people call red light thinking. So in green light thinking, the inspiration, we're chunking up, we're thinking more and more and more. Red light thinking, critical thinking, we're chunking down. Red light thinking until we come to action. And now, those are the first two practices. Can you remember what they are? Yep, that's right. Imagination and critical thinking. And at our D Cafe Startup Workshop, we do not do critical thinking. Now, it's always a good brainstorming topic. How can I become a better critical thinking? But we stick just strictly to the green light thinking, chunking up, thinking more and more, brainstorming. And then it's up to each person to go and do the critical thinking that's required to winnow it down to what you can actually do. Now, there's a decision made, preparation, and then the start. And the length of the decision, the preparation, and the start depends on the circumstance. Someone that's just got fired, they need to have a job quickly. You know, that may be a very short decision preparation phase, very short analysis, and then there's immediate action almost. I've done that. In 2 days, I made the decision. I had to get a job quickly. 2 days later, I was hired as Director of Marketing and Public Relations by the Denver Symphony with really no inside connection. I had a connection that helped me once I pretty much got it nailed down. But in the beginning, I approached, anyway, that's a story that I'll tell you sometime if you're ever looking for a job. But you can get a good job quickly. This idea that it takes a long time to get a job just is not true. And unemployment is a totally fictitious number. Dr. Foster at the University of Denver taught me that. He said, people say there's a lack of jobs. There's never a lack of jobs. There's an infinite amount of work to be done. It says, if you disagree with that, see me right after class, I'll put you to work. And Dr. Foster built a house with student labor on that basis. There are always jobs to be done. There is no such thing as unemployment. And it is very possible to get a good job fast because employers have a hard time finding good people. People looking for jobs can't find a job. People trying to hire can't find a worker. And the reason for this, I believe, is this craziness about career planning. And, you know, you do need to think about it, but then take action. So there is this imagination. We think, okay, what can I do? Then there is this critical thinking. What am I going to do? And then we take action. Now there is the decision and then preparation. And preparation, the most powerful way to prepare, I believe, in today's world is the modern techniques of modern adult self-directed learning, true self-directed learning. True self is different than the false self. Selfishness, self-centeredness, that's the root of our problem. That's talking about the false self. Me, 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 me. But that's not our true nature. Our true self, if it's in the spirit of consolation, if there is this logos, this divine inspiration, will help us learn the things we need to do to take the next right action. And so to facilitate that third practice, we have imagination, critical thinking, and then the third practice is self-directed learning. And the group that we suggest for that is what Ben Franklin did. We often call them Franklin circles. Franklin called that very first group the Junto. Pick up his autobiography. You can look in the index. Best edition is the Yale fully annotated edition. Pick up a copy of the Ben Franklin autobiography and look in the index under Junto, Junto. And there's enough there. You could go start a group. Or Google how to start a Franklin circle and start your own Junto type group with your friends. You can do it on your own, or if you'd like our help, we're always glad to help people get started. Give me a call Monday morning, 10 a.m. or so is usually the best time to catch me, 303-861-1447. So those are the first three practices: imagination, critical thinking, self-directed learning. And then the last practice, which for some of us needs to come first from time to time. If we've hit the wall, we've burnt out, we need to bounce and we're not bouncing. That fourth practice of the Small Business Chamber of Commerce startup method. The fourth practice is recovery. Now, I think of recovery, I played football at Thomas Jefferson High School here in Denver, and we had terrific coaches, and I remember hitting the blocking sled over and over and over to learn to be a good blocker. And the coach would stand on the sled that we're hitting, and he would be giving us the commands, hit, and we'd hit and follow the ground, and then he would say, recover, and we get back up on our feet into a good hitting position. And that's how I think of recovery. We hit, and then we recover. We have to get back up into a good hitting position. And recovery can take a lot of different forms. It may be going on a vacation. It may be just wasting a little time with God, taking a drive up in the mountains. That may be enough, and you bounce back and you're fully recovered. It may be, when I got this great job with the Denver Symphony Orchestra in just a couple of days, my recovery was I realized my situation, I sat down and thought hard, and then I started making phone calls. The recovery period was very short because there was a desperate need with 4 kids at home, and I knew I needed to find a good job fast, and I was motivated. Most people that don't find a good job fast, unless there's something really, really wrong, the people that don't find a good job fast really don't want a job yet. If you want the job will appear. I really believe that. If you pick up the phone and make the calls, you can't sit and wait for somebody to walk by and say, hey, would you go to work for me? But if you want a good job fast, it's very possible, but you have to recover first. And recovery takes many different forms. And one of the most powerful forms is the 12 steps. The 12 steps are applicable to every person's situation, no matter what, we've hit, we're down, we have to recover, we need to get back up. The 12 steps is a spiritual path for doing just that. And it involves, it really is not in conflict with any religion that I'm familiar with. If you look at the true heart of the religion, it may be something that's criticized by certain members, but if you look into the true leaders, they almost never will say anything negative about the 12 steps. And meditation is an important part. Prayer and meditation. Meditation is a separate practice. Prayer, most of us know about prayer, but there are still some that don't really know about meditation. So we have a group, Root and Branch, and we share experience with 12 steps, and we share experience with meditation. And that is as important of a practice as imagination. It's as important as critical thinking. It's as important as self-directed learning. It's this idea of recovery. Because just like we're hitting that blocking sled, it's hit, recover, hit, recover. You don't recover just once. Recovery is a way of life. And that's what we talk about at Root and Branch. And there's a meeting here in Denver each Monday at 4:30, 1311 York Street. It's free and open to everybody. So pop in, see what it's like. You don't have to give us your name. You can be as anonymous as you want. And there's other things about it that we'll tell you once you're there. But Root and Branch, each Monday, 4:30, 1311 York Street here in Denver. And that's our fourth practice. So the 4 practices: imagination, critical thinking, self-directed learning, and recovery. And I believe those 4 practices result in healthy businesses. Now, some of these shortcuts to business startup can create a toxic business where everybody hates working there. There's inadequate income for the owner and for the employees. They're cutting corners. The customers are unhappy. It's like being at war with the world. And there are a lot of businesses like that. They are nightmarish. And if you've got one of those, maybe you can retool it. I'm a business analyst. I was trained by the world's largest consulting firm ever, devoted exclusively to small business. I was trained as a business analyst so I can assess the situation. And I'm a business consultant, so I can help you implement the solution. And that's how I earn a living. These free meetings, for the most part, do not produce the client that I'm looking for. The client I'm looking for has at least 10 employees. They've got substantial volume, and the owner is just too busy to go to the Idea Cafe. Although once in a while they show up, and I may recommend it, but probably after some other things. So it depends on the particular situation, but I'm available to help you with that. That's how I fund the free work that I do, along with family resources that I've drawn on for the last 20 years. I've been doing this. 5280 magazine says I've infused Denver with an entrepreneurial spirit. I certainly hope that's true. And as we're moving up to that first Tuesday in March, I'm talking a lot about the Colorado caucus. And this week I finally was able to identify a meeting of this Building a Better Colorado before the meeting. They're very good about getting publicity out after the meeting, but I've criticized them that, in my opinion, they should be open meetings in Colorado, especially with our open meetings law. Anything with legislative intent that involves legislators should be open to the public, and they have finally opened them up. So Google Building a Better Colorado. I encourage you to go to, and I would drive across the state to go to another one. I'm not sure if they let you go to a second one. I went to the one in Thornton. It was very interesting, and I'll be talking about that this afternoon at the Denver Idea Cafe Startup Workshop. That's each Friday. The Denver Idea Cafe Startup Workshop meets at Panera Bread, just a block from the Colorado State Capitol, and you can join us for free. You can be anonymous if you want. We share startup experience, and we do a brainstorming type technique. The only requirement is that you be starting something. It's not just a networking group. If you're in a multi-level, it's not for you, because if you're in a multi-level, they have a plan that they want you to follow. But if you're in a multi-level and have decided to go in a new direction, take the skills that you've learned and start something new, you're more than welcome. You maybe start a new career, get a good job fast that will bring in some income quickly. Very often, the best way to start a new business is to get a job in the direction of your dream. And if you just grind away in the library every day, that's probably not going to be productive. Since 1953, we've had something in this country that's been a pariah on startup, that is just about brought startup to a grinding halt as more and more people find out about it. And I'm so thankful that back in 1949, when my dad started his business, that there was not a small business administration office for him to go into and to be talked out of starting. That's what they see as success. If someone comes in, like my dad, I always imagine him going in, explaining what he wants to do. Why in the world would he think he would be successful? And they would have talked him out. Dad looked back at that point in his life, and it was either start his own business or go to work for Snap-on Tools. And very likely he would have gone with Snap-on Tools if he'd gone into an SBA office, which thinks franchises are wonderful. And, all this stuff they put out started back in 1953. And if you look around the country today and you look at this country in 1953 and you ask yourself, what has the SBA done for small business? It's just about killed them. Now, they do have some programs after a disaster, Katrina, New Orleans, and so forth, where they have money that they get to small businesses. That may be a very useful function, but not startup. It was started by the same people that started the Veterans Home Loan Program. And they took the home loan programs and applied it to startup, and they're just two entirely different animals. With, a home, you have blueprints, you have income, you borrow, you're not looking to the house for income, you've got it somewhere else. That type of mortgage lending makes sense. And although there have been problems with it too, because we get the rules. But then they took that same thinking about planning and wanted a blueprint for business. My dad, when he sold his business, went to the first meeting of this little collection of business owners like himself that this conglomerate, American Stock Exchange conglomerate, had purchased. There were about 10 of these gentlemen sitting around the table listening to NMS Industries telling them how they wanted to have them operate, and they wanted them to write 5-year business plans. And they left for lunch and were walking out. The guy next to my dad, they talked and met each other. They were going to have lunch together. As they walked out the front of the building, this guy says to my dad, "They want me to tell them what's going to happen in 5 years? Hell, I hate to tell them this. I don't know what's going to happen next week." And that is true for every successful small business. It's day by day. You get up and do all you can to move forward as far as you can, as fast as you can for that day, see where you're at, and the next day you repeat the process. And this idea of ginning up a plan and following it, that is necessary for these large public corporations because they have fiduciary responsibilities to their stockholders. This is why I think Google's going to have a hard time with their alphabet, and they say they're working like Warren Buffett is. Well, Warren Buffett's gone in and gotten a collection of people like my dad together, and they may be more sophisticated, and they may be able to do some multi-year plans, but the fact is they have a spark plug, and Warren Buffett knows how important that is. And then they train their replacement to have that. But Warren Buffett can't be influencing all the businesses in America. And you need more people to start from zero to first sale. And that is a different animal than anything else. Once the business has started, there are customers, there's money coming in, then what I learned as an MBA, those tools become more relevant. And at some point, you do have to have a written business plan if you're going to have others understand what you're trying to do. But not before that first sale. Amar Bahidi has researched this. He's found that almost no successful business starts with market research and a successful business plan the way that the SBA teaches their clients to do. So I'm just so grateful that my dad didn't stumble into an SBA office back in 1949. And instead, he just did it. Nike, just do it. So we're about out of time today. I'm going to stop. I'll be at Panera Bread Cafe 13th and Grant this afternoon. Join us at 2 o'clock. We're over at 3:30. If you're a hard worker, get away for a late lunch, then you can get back to work and finish the week. Or come, we're through at 3:30, take the rest of the week off. Start the weekend early. Tomorrow, I'll be with Socrates Cafe. If you're wanting to develop your skills in critical thinking, join us at Socrates Cafe at the University of Denver. We're in the Anderson Academic Commons. When I went to school there, it was called the Penrose Library, but they've totally renewed it. It's a wonderful place, and it's worth coming just to see the Anderson Academic Commons, University of Denver. That Socrates Cafe is Saturday evening, each Saturday evening at 6:30 to 7:30 in the evening. 6:30, we're in the current periodicals in the comfortable chairs. Come over and join us, and we pick a topic at the meeting. So if you have something really on your mind that you could talk with us about for 5 minutes or so, come and suggest that as a topic. Very likely we'll put you on. Or you can come and just listen and be anonymous if you'd rather do that at your first meeting or two. But that's Socrates Cafe. There are other Socrates Cafes. These are all on our meetup.com site. You can access that through our website, smallbizchamber.org. And that's the Small Business Chamber of Commerce, Inc. We'd like to help you do more good work. Good work is good for you. It's good for the employees. It's good for the suppliers. It's good for the customers. It produces a useful product or service that's really needed, and it is not the kind of toxic thing that you see so much of today. Edmund Phelps, Nobel Prize winning economist, has said that we're just not hitting it like we used to in this country. He looks at the statistics and sees them. I really recommend his book, Mass Flourishing. And he says that these things that we think are creative are really creating a little bit of a mess. And what we're doing is getting away from the good work that E.F. Schumacher talked about in his best-selling book back in the 60s. Small is beautiful. Economics as if people matter. I think it's what Pope Francis is talking about. So come, we'll talk more about it this afternoon, face-to-face, 2 p.m. Idea Cafe Startup Workshop in Panera Bread, 13th and Grant. Call me Monday if you'd like to be on the show here and tell us about how you started, especially if you disagree with what I'm saying. I love to have people on, and let's discuss why you have a different view of these things. I've been doing that for 20 years, so be ready for an argument because I have some insights that I think are somewhat unique in today's world. You know, it's like the emperor wears no clothes. We have this view of startup, you know, the University of Denver's new program. They're only going to go after unicorns, you know, these instant billion-dollar companies. Well, that's nice work if you can get it. Let's see how well that works for them. That's crazy. That's not what's built this country. This country has been built by people that have a vision. They get a customer, revenue starts coming in, and they move forward day by day. That's what's built this country, and we're getting away from it. We're trying to help us reconnect with those roots that have made us successful for some 235 years that are getting away from us. We've lost the vitalism, the dynamism. We'd like to help restore America, both economically with these businesses and also politically. You know, it may be that you're being called in your heart of hearts to run for political office. We'd like to talk with you about that. This afternoon, 2 p.m., Panera Bread, 13th and Grant. Hope to see you there. And remember, this life is very short, so let's go get started.